Humans devour their spouses. She's barricaded in the bathroom. And he's relentless. Jake Miller had been alone in deep space for too long. 3 years aboard the exploration vessel Horizont, with only the ship's AI for company, had made him forget what real conversation felt like. So when the distress beacon pinged on his radar, his heart leaped despite the potential danger. Unknown vessel detected. Bearing 047 Mark 12. Reported ARIA, the ship's artificial intelligence. Distress signal active. No known registry in Federation database. Jake frowned, squinting at the holographic display. The ship was unlike anything in human records, all curved edges and translucent materials that seemed to shimmer even through the grainy scan. First contact situation, ARIA, he murmured, excitement building in his chest. Prepare first contact protocols and approach with caution. The Horizont glided through the vacuum, thrusters pulsing gently as it neared the alien vessel. Up close, the craft was even more beautiful, like a massive jellyfish frozen in crystal. Parts of its hull showed damage consistent with weapon impacts. Initiating docking sequence, Jake announced, more to himself than ARIA. His hands trembled slightly as he guided the Horizont to connect with the alien ship. The airlock sealed with a satisfying hiss, confirming a successful connection. Jake suited up, though scans showed the atmosphere aboard the alien vessel was surprisingly compatible with human biology. He clipped a universal translator to his collar, a device that analyzed speech patterns and attempted translation based on context and linguistic algorithms. The alien ship was eerily silent as Jake pushed through the airlock. Emergency lighting cast purple shadows across corridors that seemed designed for beings roughly human-sized. The architecture was organic, almost like walking through arteries rather than hallways. "Hello," Jake called out, his voice echoing strangely in the curved passages. "I've responded to your distress call. I'm human. From Earth. I come in peace." A shuffling sound came from ahead, followed by a series of clicks and whistles. Jake's translator hummed, processing the sounds. "Stay back." The translation finally came through, the synthetic voice tinny against the organic surroundings. "I know what you are." Jake stopped, raising his empty hands. "I'm just here to help." Your ship sent a distress signal. More shuffling, and a figure appeared at the end of the corridor. The alien was humanoid, but clearly not human, with pale blue skin that seemed to glow from within and 4 arms that moved with fluid grace. Large, faceted eyes blinked nervously at Jake from a face that was almost human-like in its expressiveness. "You are human?" the alien asked, its 4 hands clutching what appeared to be a medical kit protectively. "Yes. My name is Jake Miller. I'm an explorer from Earth." The alien pressed itself against the wall, putting as much distance between them as the corridor allowed. "The stories are true then. You consume your mates." Jake blinked, momentarily speechless. "What? No, we don't. I've seen your transmissions." The alien's voice rose in panic. "Your mating rituals. The female says she is eaten alive by desire. The male devours his partner with passion. You speak of consuming each other." Despite the gravity of the situation, Jake had to suppress a laugh. The alien had misinterpreted human metaphors, likely from intercepted entertainment broadcasts. "Those are just expressions," Jake explained carefully. "Metaphors. We don't literally eat each other." The alien's eyes narrowed suspiciously. "Yet you bare your teeth when pleased. You bite during intimacy." "That's complicated," Jake admitted. "But I promise, I'm not here to eat anyone." The alien seemed unconvinced. With surprising speed, it darted down a side passage. "Stay away," it called back. "I'm sealing myself in the cleansing chamber." Jake heard a door slam shut, followed by the distinct sound of locking mechanisms engaging. "Great," he muttered. "First contact, and they think I'm a cannibal." Jake approached the door cautiously. "Please," he called through the barrier. "I just want to help repair your ship. I'm not going to hurt you." Humans always lie, came the muffled response. The warning broadcasts were clear. Humans appear friendly, then they consume their mates. I will not be devoured. Jake sighed, leaning against the wall opposite the door. This was not how he'd imagined first contact would go. Behind the door, he could hear the alien moving around frantically. Can you at least tell me your name? Jake asked. And what happened to your ship? A long pause followed. Finally, I am Lilacs of the Vereen Collective. Our ship was attacked by Dravex raiders. The others, they took the others. I'm sorry about your crew, Jake said softly. But I really can help. Human metaphors aside, we don't eat other sentient beings. Another pause. Even your mates. Especially not our mates, Jake confirmed. Those expressions are about passion, not consumption. The lock on the door clicked, and it opened a crack. One faceted eye peered out at him. You will not try to mate with me either? Lilacs asked suspiciously. Jake couldn't help but laugh. No, that's not on my agenda. Lilacs opened the door slightly wider. Very well, human Jake. I will trust you, cautiously. But know that Vereen have toxins in our skin that would make us very unpleasant to consume. Noted, Jake replied with a smile. Now, let's figure out how to fix your ship and find your missing crew. The central command room of the Vereen ship glowed with soft bioluminescence as Jake studied the alien technology. Lilacs kept a careful distance, all four arms busy with repair work on the ship's systems. Your vessel's propulsion system is unlike anything I've seen, Jake commented, trying to establish rapport. It seems to use some kind of, is that biological technology? Lilacs' skin flushed a deeper blue. The Vereen bond with our ships. They are partly grown, partly constructed. Your crude metal vessels seem disconnected. Jake chose not to take offense. Cultural exchange was always awkward during first contact. About the misunderstanding earlier, he ventured. How did your people come to believe humans eat their partners? Lilacs' movements paused. 3 cycles ago, our long-range receivers captured transmissions from Earth. Entertainment broadcasts, news, communications. Our linguists studied them to understand your species. And they concluded we're cannibals. Jake asked incredulously. Your language is filled with consuming metaphors, Lilacs explained. You devour books. You have hungry looks. Your affection is expressed through eating up praise. When dealing with mates, you speak of eating out, tasting, and many references to hunger and consumption. Jake ran a hand through his hair, embarrassed. I never thought about how that might sound to another species. The collective issued warnings about humans, Lilacs continued. When mating season approaches, humans become dangerous predators, consuming their mates in ritualistic passion. Mating season. Jake suppressed another laugh. We don't have a mating season. Lilacs' eyes widened in horror. You mean you can mate at any time? How terrifying. Jake decided to change the subject. Tell me about the Dravex who attacked you. Why would they take your crew? Lilacs' demeanor darkened. The Dravex collect species. They believe superior traits can be harvested and incorporated into their own genetic structure. They experiment on other beings. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. Yes, the Dravex were once like us, explorers, scientists, but they became obsessed with genetic perfection. Now they hunt promising species, extract what they consider valuable traits, and discard the remains. Jake's mind raced. How many of your crew did they take? 12. All my kin group. Lilacs' voice wavered. I hid in the engine chamber when they boarded. The synth field there masks life signs. And you sent the distress call after they left, Jake concluded. How long ago? 2 rotations, Lilacs answered. But it may already be too late. The Dravex work quickly. Jake stood up decisively. We need to track them. My ship has advanced detection systems that might be able to trace their warp signature. Lilacs stared at him with suspicious confusion. Why would you help us? Humans have no stake in Vereen survival. Because it's the right thing to do, Jake said simply. And because the Drevex sound like a threat to everyone, humans included. Your species is puzzling, Lilacs observed. You use language of consumption, yet offer assistance to strangers. Jake smiled. Humans are full of contradictions. Lilacs flinched. Full of, you consume contradictions too. No, Jake sighed. It's another expression. Let's focus on finding the Drevex. They moved to the horizon, where ARIA welcomed them with cool efficiency. Lilacs marveled at the human technology, so different from the organic synthetic hybrid systems of Vereen ships. ARIA, can you scan for unusual warp signatures in the sector? Jake asked. Scanning, the AI responded. Unusual radiation pattern detected bearing 223 Mark 87, consistent with non-Federation drive technology. That must be them, Lilacs whispered. The Drevex use quantum fold propulsion that leaves distinctive radiation patterns. Jake studied the star chart. They're heading toward that nebula, probably to hide their activities. The gas clouds would mask their energy signatures, Lilacs agreed. They could conduct their procedures without detection. Can your ship travel? Jake asked. Not at full capacity. Life support and minimal propulsion only. Jake made a quick decision. Then you'll come with me on the horizon. We'll track the Drevex together. Lilacs hesitated. Enter a human vessel willingly. Your people might consume me. I'm the only human aboard, Jake assured them. And I've already promised not to eat you. Lilacs considered this. Very well. But I will not sleep while aboard. Vereen can remain conscious for 6 cycles without rest. Fair enough, Jake said. Aria, plot an intercept course for the nebula. Maximum stealth approach. As the horizon disengaged from the Vereen vessel and set course for the nebula, Jake noticed Lilacs watching him carefully. What is it? He asked. I am trying to understand, Lilacs replied. If humans do not consume their mates, what is the purpose of your many consumption metaphors regarding affection? Jake felt heat rise in his cheeks. That's a complicated cultural lesson for another time. The horizon slipped silently through the nebula's outer layers, its stealth systems working overtime to mask their approach. Gas clouds in vibrant purples and blues swirled around the viewports, occasionally obscuring the sensors. Drevex vessel detected, Aria announced. Approximately 50,000 kilometers ahead. Stationary. Jake studied the tactical display. The Drevex ship was massive, at least 20 times the size of the horizon. Its design was angular and predatory, like a metallic shark lurking in the nebula's depths. Their shields are active, Lilacs observed, hovering nervously over the sensor readouts. All 4 arms moved continuously, a sign of Vereen anxiety, and they've established a research station on that planetoid. Jake zoomed in on the small rocky body barely visible through the nebula's haze. That must be where they're holding your crew. Can your people survive this long without intervention? Vereen physiology allows for suspended animation when in distress, Lilacs explained. They may have entered stasis to preserve themselves, but this only delays the inevitable. The Drevex will simply revive them for their procedures. Jake's jaw tightened. We need a plan. The horizon has decent weaponry, but nothing that could take on a ship that size. Direct confrontation would be suicidal, Lilacs agreed. But perhaps we don't need to destroy their vessel. If we could infiltrate the research station and extract my kin group. A rescue mission. Jake nodded. The horizon has a stealth shuttle that could get us to the surface undetected. But once we're there, we'd need to navigate their security systems. Lilacs' skin pulsed with subtle bioluminescence, a Vereen expression of thoughtfulness. The Drevex use quantum signature locks. Their systems recognize specific genetic patterns for access. Can you bypass them? No, but Lilacs hesitated. Vereen can temporarily alter our outer cellular structure. With a sample of Dravek's genetic material, I could potentially mimic their signature long enough to fool basic security systems. Jake raised his eyebrows. That's impressive. But how do we get a Dravek sample? We would need to capture one, Lilac stated matter-of-factly, or find discarded biological material. Jake considered their options. Analyze Dravek's patrol patterns around the research station. Analysis complete, the AI responded after a moment. Draveks utilize automated drones for perimeter security, with organic personnel rotating shifts every 4.3 hours. There is a 12-minute window during shift changes when security density decreases by approximately 27%. That's our window, Jake decided. We'll take the shuttle down during the next shift change, find a way to obtain a genetic sample, and use it to access their systems. Lilac's faceted eyes studied Jake intently. You risk your life for beings you've just met. This contradicts everything the collective believes about humans. Jake shrugged. Maybe your collective doesn't know humans as well as they think. Perhaps not, Lilac conceded. But there is something else you should know. The Draveks would be particularly interested in human genetics. Why's that? Your species adapts unusually quickly. You survive in environments that would kill most sentient species. You recover from injuries that would be fatal to others. The Draveks would consider humans a premium harvesting opportunity. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. Well, that makes this even more fun. Let's gear up. They prepared in tense silence. Jake equipped himself with a pulse rifle, stunner, and various tools that might prove useful. Lilac carried specialized Varine technology, devices that looked like jewelry but functioned as sophisticated scanners and communication tools. As they boarded the shuttle, Lilac turned to Jake. There is a Varine saying, "Those who journey together share fate's current." By your human standards, does this make us friends? Jake smiled. I think it does, Lilac, though friends don't usually start by accusing each other of cannibalism. An unconventional beginning. Lilac agreed, skin flushing a lighter blue that Jake was beginning to recognize as amusement. The shuttle detached from the horizon and slipped silently through the nebula, its stealth systems rendering it nearly invisible to sensors. As they approached the planetoid, Jake could make out the research station, a sprawling complex of angular structures built into the rocky surface. Next shift change in 7 minutes, Araya's voice announced through their comms. Recommend landing at coordinates being transmitted now. Jake guided the shuttle toward a sheltered ravine near the facility's perimeter. Ready? He asked Lilac as they touched down. The Varine's 4 hands checked equipment one final time. As ready as one can be when infiltrating a genetic harvesting facility. That's the spirit, Jake said with a grim smile. Let's go save your people. The Dravek's research facility loomed before them, its metallic surfaces gleaming dully in the nebula's filtered light. Jake and Lilac crouched behind a rocky outcropping, observing the patrol patterns of security drones. The shift change begins in 2 minutes, Jake whispered, checking his tactical display. When it happens, we'll have a narrow window to reach that maintenance hatch. Lilac's skin had taken on a muted tone, the Varine equivalent of camouflage. I sense 12 of my kin group still alive within. Their life signatures are weak but present. Jake glanced at his companion in surprise. You can sense them from here. Varine share a limited psychic bond with our kin groups, Lilac explained. It is how we navigate our communal ships with such precision. That could be useful, Jake noted. Can you tell where they're being held? Lilac's faceted eyes unfocused briefly. Sub-level 3. In stasis chambers, the perimeter drones began moving toward the main entrance. The shift change had begun. Jake nodded to Lilac, and they sprinted toward the maintenance hatch, using the rocky terrain for cover. They'd reached it just as the security gap was closing, and Jake quickly attached a bypass device to the hatch's control panel. We need a genetic sample before we go deeper, Lilac reminded him as the hatch slid open. The maintenance tunnel was dimly lit and cramped. They moved silently, following Lilacs' sense of their destination. At a junction, they heard approaching footsteps. "Hide," Jake whispered, pulling Lilacs into a recessed utility alcove. A Drevex technician passed by, humanoid but taller than Jake, with gray-scaled skin and six-fingered hands. Jake moved with lightning speed, applying a nerve pinch technique that dropped the alien without a sound. "Quick," he urged Lilacs. "Get your sample." Lilacs extracted a small device and pressed it against the unconscious Dravex's skin. The device hummed softly as it collected cellular material. "Processing," Lilacs murmured. Their skin began to ripple and change texture, gradually taking on a grayish, scaled appearance, similar to the Dravex. "This disguise will fool their basic security sensors, but not a direct visual inspection." "It'll have to do," Jake said, dragging the unconscious technician into the alcove. "How long will he be out?" "The neural stunner should keep him unconscious for approximately 1 hour," Lilacs replied, voice strained from the physiological changes. They continued deeper into the facility, Lilacs' altered cellular structure allowing them to bypass genetic scanners. They encountered several more Dravex, but managed to avoid detection by timing their movements carefully. When they reached sub-level 3, they found a laboratory filled with stasis pods. Inside each transparent chamber floated a Varine, suspended in a viscous blue fluid. "They're alive," Lilacs confirmed, skin pulsing with relief. "But they've already begun the extraction process on some of them." Jake examined the control console. "Can we safely transport them in these pods?" "Yes, the pods are designed for mobility." "Then let's," Jake began, but was interrupted by an alarm blaring throughout the facility. A voice boomed over the intercom in the Dravex language. The translator in Jake's collar processed the message. "Intruder alert. Unknown species detected in research sector. Security teams converge." "They've found us," Jake said grimly, readying his weapon. "No," Lilacs corrected, pointing to a security monitor. "They found your ship." On the screen, they could see Dravex forces surrounding the horizon, which had somehow been detected despite its stealth systems. "ARIA, status report," Jake called into his communicator. "Dravex vessels detected emerging from nebula." The AI responded. "They employed advanced detection technology, not in our database. I am currently evading capture but cannot maintain this position for long." Jake's mind raced. New plan. "We need to create a diversion." He moved to a nearby terminal and began typing rapidly. "Every research facility has safety protocols. If we can trigger a containment breach alarm in the opposite sector, the security forces would be diverted." Lilacs finished the thought. "Exactly. And while they're dealing with that, we'll move the stasis pods to the shuttle." Jake's fingers flew across the alien interface, using techniques that shouldn't have worked on Dravex technology. But somehow, through a combination of human intuition and creative problem-solving, he managed to access their systems. "How are you doing this?" Lilacs asked in amazement. "These are quantum-encrypted systems." Jake grinned. "Humans have a knack for finding unexpected solutions. We call it thinking outside the box." "Another metaphor," Lilacs observed, "but an apt one." With a final command, Jake triggered emergency protocols in a distant sector. Alarms immediately changed tone and direction, and the monitor showed security forces rushing toward the false emergency. "Now," Jake said, moving to the stasis pods, "let's get your people out of here." They worked quickly, disengaging the pods from their monitoring systems and activating their transport mode. Each pod hummed with internal power as it hovered slightly above the floor, ready to be guided. "I'll take point," Jake said, moving to the door with weapon ready. "You coordinate the pods." What followed was a tense journey back through the facility. Twice they nearly encountered Dravex security and had to duck into side passages. The pods, though designed for transport, were unwieldy in the narrow corridors. When they finally reached the maintenance hatch, Jake peered outside cautiously. "Clear for now, but it won't last. The shuttle's about 200 meters across open ground." We cannot move quickly with the pods, Lilacs warned. Jake nodded, making a decision. I'll create another diversion. When you see the explosion on the far perimeter, make for the shuttle with your people. What explosion? What will you do? Jake quickly adjusted settings on his pulse rifle. Something very human, causing chaos. Get ready. Before Lilacs could protest, Jake slipped out and circled wide around the facility's perimeter. Finding a power junction, he overloaded his rifle's energy cell and wedged it into the junction's housing. Sprinting back toward the maintenance hatch, he barely reached Lilacs when the makeshift bomb detonated. The explosion was more powerful than even Jake had anticipated, taking out a significant portion of the facility's power grid and sending Dravex security scrambling. Now, Jake shouted. They rushed across the open ground, Jake providing covering fire when a few Dravex drones spotted them. The shuttle's ramp lowered automatically as they approached, responding to Jake's emergency signal. Get them aboard, Jake called, laying down suppressive fire as more Dravex appeared. The pods floated up the ramp under Lilacs' guidance. Just as the last one entered, a Dravex energy weapon caught Jake in the shoulder, spinning him around. Jake! Lilacs cried, one arm extending impossibly to grab him and pull him aboard as the ramp closed. The shuttle's engines roared to life, breaking atmosphere rapidly enough to press them all into the deck plating. Above them, the Horizont executed a series of impossible maneuvers that confused the Dravex tracking systems long enough for the shuttle to dock. All aboard, Jake gasped through pain as they secured the stasis pods in the Horizont's cargo area. Araya, get us out of here. The ship accelerated away from the planetoid, diving deeper into the nebula to use its gases as cover. The Dravex vessels pursued, but Araya executed a complex series of maneuvers that gradually lost them in the cosmic cloud. In the medical bay, Lilacs tended to Jake's wound with surprising gentleness for a being with 4 arms. You risked everything for my kin group, Lilacs said softly. The collective's understanding of humans has been incomplete. Jake winced as the healing compound was applied to his shoulder. Maybe you can update their records. Humans do not eat their mates, but may occasionally blow up alien research facilities. Lilacs' skin rippled with the Vereen equivalent of laughter. I will ensure the record is corrected. But there is something I still do not understand. What's that? If your consumption metaphors are not literal, what do they actually mean? When humans speak of devouring someone with passion, what is the true meaning? Jake's face flushed. It's about intensity. Hunger is one of our strongest drives, so we use it to express other powerful feelings. It means we want to be close, to experience someone completely. Fascinating, Lilacs mused. Perhaps our species are not so different after all. Vereen also seek complete experiences with those we care for, though we express it through light patterns rather than consumption metaphors. As the Horizont carried them safely away from Dravex space, Jake reflected on how quickly misunderstandings could arise between cultures, and how rewarding it could be to overcome them. Where to now? He asked as Lilacs joined him on the bridge, the recovered Vereen safely beginning to emerge from stasis under Araya's watchful care. My people will need time to recover, Lilacs said, and the collective should be informed about the Dravex threat, and about humans. Back to Vereen space then, Jake decided. I think it's time for a proper first contact, one that doesn't involve accusations of cannibalism. Lilacs' skin glowed with a pattern Jake had come to recognize as happiness. Perhaps this is the beginning of a new alliance. The stars hold many dangers, but also many opportunities for those willing to reach beyond misunderstanding. Jake smiled, thinking of how a simple linguistic confusion had led to an adventure that might change the future of both their species. To new beginnings, he said. And to understanding hunger, Lilacs added, a tempting human humor in all its forms.